Chapter 8 of Your Psychic Powers and How to Develop Them. Recording by Nancy Beard. Your Psychic Powers and How to Develop Them by Hereward Carrington. Chapter 8. The Cultivation of Spiritual Gifts. There are two ways of regarding any particular fact. The first is to observe it from without. The second is to experience it from within. If we look at an orange, we observe it from without, and we could never experience it from within unless we were the orange. The only things that can experience sensations from within in this way are minds. Each mind can inwardly experience and see objectively its own sensations, and, as so far as we know, it is the only thing in the world which can do so. All psychic experience is, therefore, inward or sensitive, and can never be felt by another person, but must be experienced by him in order that he should appreciate and understand the mental state you yourself are experiencing. It is the same with psychic phenomena. If anyone experiences any phenomena of this character, he can never impart this knowledge to others except in a very roundabout way, and for these others to understand the phenomena they themselves must experience them. It is for this reason that it is so difficult for psychics to express and explain to outsiders the character of the sensations and phenomena they are experiencing. Everything being so largely symbolic, and our language being so poor in this direction, it is often very difficult for them to explain precisely what they mean. Developing mediumship. We do not know as yet exactly what mediumship is. There is much evidence to show that it is very often hereditary and runs through 3 or 4 generations, just like any other gift. With some, mediumship appears in childhood and seems to be a very part of their constitution. The majority, however, develop it later on in life as the result of coming into contact with mediums, or developing it within themselves by experiments. Some retain their mediumship throughout life. Others experience it only for a few months, a few weeks, a few days, in some cases only a few seconds. In some cases, mediumship is terminated suddenly. In other cases, it is gradually lost through a period of years. One who has at any time experienced mediumship can usually recall it by reason of its persistence, no matter how long afterwards. Controlling phenomena. In mediumship, or when obtaining psychic phenomena of any character, we are as yet experimenting, as it were, with forces and laws as yet largely unknown, just as the early scientists experimented with electricity. Indeed, we do not yet know what electricity is. However, at the present day we can control it perfectly, and it is to be hoped that the time will come when mediumship and all psychic phenomena can be controlled in a similar manner, even though we may never know the innermost essence of psychic power. If we could do that, it would be, at any rate, on a workable basis, so to speak. Mediumistic exercises. All mediumistic exercises develop this power to some extent, but in different directions. The following are a few of the methods which may be pursued in cultivating and developing the psychic self and the inner spiritual center of our being, as distinct from purely physical phenomena. As before said, it is essential that we should understand and control ourselves before we endeavor to control outside forces. Much may be learned through what is known as introspection, that is, the turning inward of the attention upon the inner self, instead of outward upon the external world. If you close your eyes and do this and try to find out the nature of your true inner being, you will probably experience a peculiar sensation. You will find that, like happiness, it continually eludes you, and that when you think you have grasped your own self, it is only a state of mind which has since passed and is now only a memory. Practice this introspection for a few minutes each day, and before long you will be surprised at your development in this direction, for you will be enabled to come into far closer touch with yourself than formerly. The inner self will become illuminated, as it were. Mastering the self. This practice will lead to the habit of escaping from our sense perceptions, to which most of us are slaves. As you get away from these and are enabled to withdraw more and more fully into your inner self, you will experience a sensation of reality and the ability to perceive the truth of things in a manner hitherto undreamed of. Truth exists. We do not perceive it for the simple reason that the veil of sense is between it and us. Lift this veil, and you will perceive truth clearly, as in the light of day. This practice of acquiring greater mastery over self will also put you more closely in touch with the great magnetic power currents of the universe, so that you will never feel exhausted or in need of nervous energy. There being an unlimited supply of energy in this universe, all we have to do is to learn to tap it, which we can do by these methods of psychic development, and we can draw upon it in any quantity we choose. We will also be put in touch with higher conditions. How spirit unites us. With increased spiritual development and spiritual life, we will perceive that there is a universal brotherhood of mankind, and that nothing is really separated from anything else. That we are not separated from our neighbor, but that we are united in the great universal infinite intelligence which combines all. We may compare ourselves to trees in this respect. Each tree is apparently a separate being, whose leaves whisper to one another, and whose branches sometimes touch in the swaying of the evening breezes. But their roots are sunk deep into the ground, and are often intertwined with another, while the common earth unites them all. In a similar way, we are united in the spiritual universe of which we form a part. Fundamentally, physically, we are united one with another. Meditation. Meditation may be considered one of the methods by means of which we awaken the inner self, and frequently awaken our spiritual or astral senses, so as to cause them to function on another plane. At the same time, if this developing process is done properly, we build up walls of power about ourselves, which others will find it impossible to break through, by mental or hypnotic influence, even should they desire to do so. We cover ourselves with a sphere of energy through which nothing can pass against our will. The power of thought. All thoughts sent out by us into the universe have some definite purpose and have a certain effect, both upon ourselves and upon others. Thoughts are things. We can create a thought as surely as we can create a house or a chair, and, once created, there is no telling where this thought may stop, or how lasting its actions may be. If these thoughts are good, helpful, and useful, they often return to us like boomerangs, with the added happiness and power which they have accumulated from others of a similar character in their flight through space. On the contrary, Evil thoughts come back to us in the same way, and it will be found that they always return to their sender, with added power for evil or for good. See to it, therefore, that you only send out thoughts of the highest and best. Some people, when they first realize this fact, are almost afraid at first to think at all, for fear of the effects their thoughts may have. But this is a great mistake. Expression is the first law of life. We must learn to express. Express. The chief outward difference between a living being and a corpse is that one can express itself and the other cannot. Do not be afraid to express yourself fully and forcibly in any direction. Even the bodily expression of our feelings and emotions is quite justified. There is nothing to be ashamed of in conviction or in passion. It is the abuse of these which is detrimental. The use of the will. In a similar way, the power of the will may be used for good or for evil, as the case may be, and it has a great power in both directions, as the history of occultism has shown us. In the one case we have, as the result of the exercise of this power, various psychic phenomena, marvelous cures, and all the varied accomplishments of this world. On the other hand, we have the phenomena of witchcraft, black magic, harmful absent treatment, and crime. It all depends into which channel we direct the energy of our will. The soul must learn to find and experience itself fully before it can consider itself thoroughly alive and a fully developed entity. After this realization has been accomplished, then and then only should we direct our attention to cultivating and directing the latent energies which we possess. Self-development essential. It is because of this fact that self and soul culture is necessary before psychic phenomena are cultivated to any great extent. We must learn to know ourselves, to preserve a just and careful balance of judgment, sympathy, understanding, and intuition. If we do not possess these qualities, we shall never become mediums on the highest plane. On the contrary, we may draw to ourselves, while developing mediumship, harmful or lying intelligences, which we have attracted into our magnetic aura. So, I cannot too strongly advise and warn you to practice these self-developing exercises before cultivating external psychic or mediumistic powers. Mediumship opens the doors to influence and powers over which we have little control, and we must be sure that, before the doors of the soul are swung back, we must be prepared to receive whoever enters, by reason of our own self-control and inner powers. Otherwise, we may be unable to close the doors when we wish to, or the door of reason may become altogether unhinged. In giving these warnings, I do not wish to frighten the reader, since there is no necessity to become alarmed if caution be exercised in this development. Only I wish to emphasize the necessity for this caution. End of Chapter 8. Recording by Nancy Beard, Kingston, New York.